Hello, lovelies. How are you all doing? I am so excited for today's video. I am sure you all know already by the title. We are going to be playing around with the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz. So this is the beautiful Rose Quartz palette by Huda Beauty, and I've never used this before. I've had this for such a long while, but I decided to, play around with this one today. But not just this, we have a counterfeit rose quartz palette by not really Huda Beauty, but this is just an exact copy of the palette. I mean, of course, they cannot copy it exactly for the price point they're giving you, but I got this through Amazon for around 400 bucks. So I think without any further ado, let's jump right into the video. But before doing that, I've been observing you guys are watching the video but you're not really subscribing to the channel. Please do that. It would really help me out. It would mean just so much to me. Alright, so I don't want to keep blabbering. Let's get into the video and see how the two perform. Please like it and share it and comment down below. So we have both the rose quartz palettes right here. This one is from Amazon for around 400 bucks, which is very cheap for a Huda Beauty palette. And this one I got from Kannikka. The MRP is 5375. But since I am a pro member on Kannikka, I do get around 10% off. So that's the scene. And if you see, the packaging itself kind of speaks for its quality. This one comes in like a plastic wrap kind of a situation here, a plastic envelope. And when you take it out, this is what you see. This is not holographic. And when I'm kind of even scared to open it because it feels pretty cheap. The plastic itself feels very cheap. And you see that? This is broken and this is how it came. Anyways, and very cheap. And once I remove the cover, this is what it looks like. Can you see these marble shadows? I mean, very cheap counterfeit, but this is what it is. Personally, okay, now I don't know if you can see this. So in this particular shadow, you can see this wet situation here. This is the glue from underneath the pan, and that's there in this eyeshadow also. So you can see how cheap the quality is. And this particular shadow, which Huda Beauty is super famous for such shadows, highlighters, these just feel like balls sticking together. That is it. But let's actually test it out on our eyes and see what it actually, feels like. This is literally going to come off any moment. And I think it's going to be really easy for me to handle it. I'm just going to remove it because this is almost 90% off. And I'm left with just the palette. So I'm just going to keep this mirror thingy aside. And we're going to unbox the original one, which comes in a cardboard packaging with all the ingredients and the MRP and the expiry and the barcode. So very heavy and sturdy. And If you see the packaging, it has that pearl kind of a packaging, which this one does not. So there you see the difference. The first thing that I want to focus on here is this particular shadow, and this looks so gorgeous. And look at it here, very cheap. Can you see that difference? It's drastic. Now even the marble shadows look so cheap, and can you see how thin the packaging is? And look at it here. There is a difference in the plastic material, loads and loads of difference. And you can see the marble shadows are so beautiful. This shimmer, there is such a huge difference. There is a lot of difference in how these shadow palettes look. Now we need to actually try out on how they actually look on our eye. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly fill up my brows, and then we are going to dig right into these shadows. Let's go. So I am using my trusted P. Louise base on both the eyes, of course. So here we go. I'm just going to take like a flat brush to try and create like an identical look. Let's see if that's possible with this palette. I'm hoping for the best though. So I'm just going to carve my brows also with this. So I'm going to start with the original palette first. I am going to dip into this dark shade called Aura. Just making sure there are no creases. Alright, so Huda Beauty shadows mostly have like unreal pigment. So I'm just packing this shade into the outer corner. We're going to do like a cut crease because I really want to see the quality of the shimmers as well. Such a beautiful color. So I'm just going to buff the edges of this without taking any more product. We're going to repeat the same with the Amazon Valor palette. So now I am going to dip into the same shade, sorry, this one. Here in this palette, it is called Passion. It changed the names as well. That's great. Okay, let's take it onto the brush. There is not really a lot of kickback in this palette. I don't know whether that's good or not. I'm taking the same shade. In this palette, it is called Passion, onto the same brush. And the pigment is nice, especially for the price point. It is unreal, honestly. And it is not even patchy. I am impressed, honestly impressed. It was less than 400 for sure, and paying 5,375 versus 375. It's unreal. Looks pretty identical to me. And I'm going to use a pink from the palette. This is called Happiness, this particular pink. It's a beautiful bubblegum pink. And here in the other palette from Amazon, it is called Arouse. Nice names though. I am going to try include the maximum number of shadows possible. Really beautiful. Again, taking the same brush. There we go, it's a clean brush, and dipping into the same shade called Arouse. Honestly, I'm impressed up until now. Super pigmented, man. what I am feeling as of now is that these shadows are not very buildable, you know, because abhi aap dekho na, it's not as intense as this side. We're starting to notice the difference. Now I'm taking another brush. I want to use this pale pink lilac kind of a shade. And this here in the original Huda Beauty palette is called Serenity. But honestly, they haven't been able to kind of copy the shade very nicely. I'm just going to swatch this particular shade for you guys. This is what it looks like in the counterfeit palette, and this is in the other palette. The original one I think has a lot more purple as compared to this one, and the pigmentation, and there's a lot of difference. Lot of difference. Look at that. I'm sure we can see the difference in the shade and the pigmentation both. So that's like a huge difference. Okay, so we're using Zoeva 227, very beautiful color honestly. This is the original side. I'm just going to focus it here, mainly towards the inner part of the eye. Very, very beautiful. Now I am going to wipe it off, and here it is called Tantric. Lot of kickback in the pan in this particular shade. This patchiness that's there, that is something that's happening, and if I see it on this side, it's perfectly blended. Also, I think this one is not as purple and pastel as the original one, so that difference is kind of, you know, pretty evident in this particular shade, because honestly I've been doing this for a while and I know how difficult it is to create beautiful pastel eyeshadows, and you can clearly see that. Now I am going to deepen the outer area once more with the darkest shade in the palette. So in the original palette, this is the shade that I'm talking about. It's called Mantra. And I'm just going to take it on the side of the brush. Look how pigmented it is in this palette. I do not take I don't dig into the palette, but I just slightly, you know, very carefully just touch it to only get like a whisper of the shadow, because I don't like when I, you know, take like load of shadow onto the brush. So now what I'm feeling is, what really happened is that when we had that wet base, that kind of just grabbed onto the first two shadows, which is brilliant. But now that we have an eyeshadow underneath, तो buildability nahi hai. That is something that I'm noticing. See? And look at the depth here. Such a drastic difference. I'm just taking some on the tip of the brush to deepen the crease. हल्का सा deepen हो गया है. But of course it is not very nice.
37 seconds later.
So this has that smoked out look, but this one doesn't. I am taking the second shade that I took in the original palette, that is called Happiness. I just want to make sure that the edges are all well blended. I'm taking the shade Arouse from the Counterfeit palette, and again blending the edges here as well. I'm taking the shade Serenity from the Huda Beauty palette. So this particular shadow is very, very patchy. and a lot more pink than purple. Alright, so we are pretty much done with this. I'm just going to cut my crease and then we are going to dip into the shimmers.
Okay.
Taking the same P. Louise base on a P. Louise brush. Now we're going to dip into the shimmers. We're going to start with this blue dark purple eyeshadow and it is called Empowered on a flat brush. And I am going to just pack this. Very, very beautiful. This is the shimmer and it's called Hypnotic. I'm picking it up. So freaking dry this is. I'm sure you can see iski pigmentation and iski pigmentation. It is so different. Look at that. I'm loading up the brush. I am dipping into this shade. It's called Cosmic Love. Very beautiful shade. Oh god, wow. This is what that particular shade looks like in this palette. And it is called Please Me. I don't think this shade would be able to please me though. मुझे तो दिख ही नहीं रहा. Okay. Just so you guys can see, this is what has come on the brush. It is all that I could pick up after vigorously rubbing into the shadow. And this is all I could pick up. That is why people, please don't buy such cheap eyeshadow palettes. I mean, अगर हम नहीं खरीद रहे होते तो ये सब नहीं बना रहे होते ना ये सब. It's real bad quality. It is so gorgeous and here in this palette though it looks pathetic. Matlab, I cannot pick up only. That is the best I can do with this shadow. I am dipping into this shadow. Super gorgeous and super reflective. This is called Blissful. Very beautiful shadow. This is the shade I used from the original palette and वो यहाँ पे ऐसा दिखता है. And there's no other shade that can kind of match it. So I think I'm going to have to go Empowered. It's called Spicy here. I hate the palette, honestly. I need to try out that jelly shade. Let's try it out from this palette first. This is what it looks like. And the beads are already coming off. Pathetic quality, man. I'm just going to swatch it here. This is what it looks like. On a clean finger, I'm going to use this shade. All I can see is like a topper shade. बहुत ही हल्का सा glossiness. And that is all that this shade was meant to do. But they created another formula altogether. And honestly, this is what it looks like now. And in the original palette, it is still going strong. So just after this video, this palette is going to go into the dustbin. But I really wanted to do this video, and we've already seen, I don't think I need to apply that gloss topper because the shimmers itself, the shimmers speak for themselves, and this is what the eyes look. I'm just going to bring it up close. See, this is like so dry and literally looks like matte shadows, and this is so glossy and shimmery. Let's just blend out the edges. So basically, guys, you have to understand that high quality shimmers are expensive to manufacture, and that is what you're really paying for. And when you buy such counterfeit products, you're kind of just destroying the whole idea of makeup, and that is something that truly breaks my heart.
A few moments later.
So I am back after completing the whole face, and I am pretty sure you guys can obviously see a lot of difference in the eyeshadow, and the shimmers in this counterfeit super cheap palette are absolutely disgusting, honestly. I mean, look at the condition of the palette already. The beads are already coming out. It feels super cheap, and you can see how the shimmers have performed. There is just no shine to it, and it literally looks like a matte, eyeshadow formula. And look at that glistening shimmer here. It literally, gives you that wet effect, and that is what I personally want from my shimmers, not this. So I don't think I really need to give you a review on this. It's all pretty evident right here. So I think this is pretty much it for this video. All I really want to say out loud in this particular video is please stop purchasing such cheap counterfeit products, because in a way, I'm sure we all know piracy is a crime in terms of series and everything. I think this also should be a crime. Whatever all these Chinese brands are doing, just copying months and years of hard work and just selling it for like a very small fraction of the actual price is very bad. Of course, they cannot give you that kind of quality in such a small price, but I think we should stop purchasing it. There are a lot of inexpensive, good drugstore brands available today in India and abroad, and I think we should go ahead if we cannot, afford, or if we don't really want to, splurge 5,000 rupees in an eyeshadow palette. We should go ahead and buy such products and not these made in China super cheap counterfeit products, which are in a way going to even harm you yourself, because we don't know what they're actually putting in this eyeshadow palette to get it down to such a small price. So there's that, and I hope you really enjoyed this kind of a video, and we would of course keep doing a lot of such videos. So I will see you guys in my next one. I love you all so much.